So today I'm going to talk about the Buchenwald Concentration Camp, which is a concentration camp located within Germany. You can pass the slide.
Mr. Roy. Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. So first of all, we're going to talk about what the camp was itself and where it was located. So the Buchenwald Concentration Camp was initially constructed in 1937. It was planned much earlier, and it was one of the largest concentration camps within the German borders. There were larger ones in Poland, for example, or in other places throughout Europe, especially Eastern Europe. But the largest one, or one of the largest one within Europe, was this one, in the Buchenwald concentration camp. It was built 5 miles northwest of the city of Weimar, which is known for the Weimar Republic back when the First World War ended. And it is more precisely located in the northern slopes of Ettersberg, which is a hill north to the city of Weimar. So in the middle, you can see a photo of Weimar nowadays, which is known as a very kind of cultural city. To the left of that, you can find the memorial to those who died in Buchenwald, located in the Ettersberg hill. And then to my very right is a location of how Germany used to be, and that's Weimar. It's in center to the east, near Sachsen and in Thuringen. You can pass, Mr. Rogers. So the number of deaths and the number of inmates overall. It was opened by SS authorities in July 1937, and it was initially only for male prisoners. So women weren't part of the camp system itself until 1943. However, in 1943, loads and loads of women entered. So it was like all those women who didn't enter throughout the opening years came in rows in 1943. Between 1937 and 1945, the SS imprisoned 250,000 people from every kind of background, from all European countries. They were Jewish people, political prisoners from every single country, repeat offenders, Jehovah's Witnesses, Gypsies or Romas, German military deserters, homosexuals, prisoners of war, resistance fighters, and foreign forced laborers, and prominent former government officials of non-German occupied countries. Buchenwald also stands out because it was one of the first concentration camps which held worksite individuals. Worksite individuals were people who the government classified as asocials. So basically, they wouldn't find any kind of employment, or they couldn't find any kind of employment. So these people that didn't find employment that was good for the German war effort were actually sent to Buchenwald. Overall, the total number of deaths in Buchenwald is unknown. We don't know exactly the amount of deaths there were, but there's an estimate that shows that there was about 53,000 to 54,000 prisoners murdered by the SS inside the camp itself. So down here we have a chart or a table from all the division of how people were killed. So the total killed inside the camp itself was of 34,566. The total Russian POWs murdered, so only Russians, was just 7,200. Executions, this was a concentration camp, so it wasn't normal or as normal to have executions as in an execution camp or as a mass murder camp. And then total sent on liquidation transport, so sent to other camps where they would be killed, was 11,060. So the overall death was at 54, if I'm not mistaken, 53,926. So you can pass the slide, Mr. Rogers. Okay. The distribution of the camp. So how was the camp distributed? The prisoners themselves lived in the camp, surrounded by, of course, electrified barbed wire to keep them inside, watchtowers and sentries equipped with automatic machine guns. So all the security you would have in your typical concentration camp in the day. So electrified barbed wire to keep them in, watchtowers to shoot any kind of prisoner who tried to escape, and of course sentries, which were the ones who shot any kind of prisoner who wanted to escape. Inside the camp, there was a punish block known as the bunker, and near the camp's entrance. It was in the bunker where prisoners who violated camp regulations or didn't follow the rules were punished and often tortured. Other than a bunker, the camp included 33 wooden barracks where the prisoners were, slept, 15 two-story stone buildings, a kitchen, a laundry, a prisoner's infirmary, a canteen, several workshops, warehouses, and disinfection buildings. Eventually, this was the distribution of the camp before. So when it was built in July 1937, and later it built a railway station, a crematorium, and a brothel. Areas for the SS officers to also stay in the camp were also placed, and guard barracks were located in the southern part of the camp. Furthermore, the main camp administered another 88 subcamps. So instead of being just one individual camp, it also kind of administered and kind of led other mini camps surrounding Buchenwald. All these subcamps were located within Germany, and these subcamps used prisoners in the Buchenwald camp system as the forced laborers. And so as the years passed, those who were too weak to keep on being productive in Buchenwald were sent to these subcamps, which many of them were, had an euthanasia plan. So basically was the whole purpose of many of the subcamps were killing prisoners. Such as this one, in Sonnenstein near Buchenwald. You can. So that's a map, basically a map of Buchenwald in 1945. So when it was liberated, we'll talk later who liberated them. But this is the map they drew and how they found Buchenwald. So you can see maybe in the eastern side or in the western side, so you can see where the inmates stayed, the main camp, children's block, the farm area, barns, Soviet posts located in one unique barrack. And then to the other side, you can find the SS quarters, special compounds, and the administration part. So they were quite separate, you could say. Some stories within the camp, some things that happened in the camp. So first of all, there was this man called Ernst Thälmann, and before Hitler became to power in Germany, he was the chairman for the German Communist Party. So he is known as being one of the most famous prisoners inside Buchenwald. Of course, he was arrested in 1933, so when Hitler came into power. And then while he was arrested, later on when the camp was built, he was moved into Buchenwald and then murdered in August 1944 by the SS. Another story is after Kristallnacht in 1938, the SS and the German police sent 10,000 Jews to the camp. And once they arrived, so just when they arrived, they were very badly treated and tortured. Many of them died instantly from, they set a foot into the camp and they were instantly maltreated. And many of them died of the SS officers just hitting them. So over 250 prisoners died due to the injuries incurred during the arrest and their initial mistreatment at the camp. So just upon arrival, they were brutally tortured and brutally treated. Another this is one of the most crude stories, is that the Buchenwald camp set up a special squadron or special guard unit known as the SS Commando 99. And this SS Commando 99 once shot 8,000 Soviet prisoners of war near an SS stable, very close to the main camp. So it wasn't actually in the main camp; it was outside the main camp, and they shot 8,000 Soviet prisoners. The SS often killed people in the stables, and they also hanged many of them in the crematorium. And the final story, which I think is the most maybe interesting, is that there was also many medical experiments inside the camp. So the first experiment was in 1941, where many Nazi scientists carried out experiments on the prisoners to test the efficacy of vaccines and treatments against contagious diseases, things like cholera, typhus, and typhoid. Of course, these vaccines weren't tested they were tested, but they weren't tested in animals first. They were directly treated into the prisoners. So many hundreds of prisoners were killed due to the lack of efficiency of the vaccines. However, the more popular story is that in 1944, so a couple of years later, there was this Danish physician in the camp known as Dr. Carl Burnett. And he said he thought that homosexuality, or being gay or lesbian, was something that it was like a disease. You could get it, and you could also be treated for it. So he thought that, it's a disease and we need to cure it. So his experiments to cure homosexuality involved transplanting an artificial male sex gland to other inmates. Of course, these experiments were a failure and many, many people died. And so Bernd lost a lot of support from the Nazi officials. So in my left, you have an image of the communist leader chairman, Ernst Thälmann. I think his was Ernst Thälmann. And then to my right, you have Dr. Karl Berman. And finally, the evacuation and the liberation of Buchenwald. So, like many other camps, the Soviets approached Germany, and so as Soviet forces entered the German-occupied Poland, so not Germany itself, but Poland, more than 10,000 exhausted prisoners from Auschwitz and Gross-Rosen, other camps, moved to Buchenwald in January 1945. So you could say that the camp came a bit crowded now. So it was all the Buchenwald inmates, plus some from Auschwitz and some from Gross-Rosen too. By February, the camp reached 112,000, which is a lot. In early 1945, as US forces approached the camp, the SS evacuated 28,000 prisoners from the main camp and several thousand from Buchenwald subcamps. And this was the liberation itself, not in hands of the Soviets, but in the hands of the Americans. An underground resistance organization inside the camp delayed evacuations by obstructing Nazi orders, saving many lives. So there was kind of this underground resistance. Many of the inmates inside the Buchenwald camp knew that they were going to get liberated sooner or later, and so there was a kind of resistance organization which managed to delay many of the direct orders from the Nazi in Berlin, and so that gave the Americans more time to get closer, while the Germans, the SS officers in Buchenwald, didn't realize what was going on. The key date came the 11th of April of 1945. When the prisoners expected liberation, they stormed the watchtowers and seized control of the entire camp. As expected, that same afternoon, US soldiers from the 6th Armored Division, part of the 3rd Army, found more than 21,000 people in the camp. So as I told you, many of these inmates knew about they were going to get saved by the Americans, and so they decided that the same day they were going to storm and make the access easier for the Americans. And so they stormed the watchtowers and they seized control of the entire camp. And later in the afternoon, the Americans indeed came. So thanks for listening. That's my presentation on the Buchenwald concentration camp, and I hope you enjoyed it.